Oh my goodness. I can't believe it. Melanie, welcome to the Self Love Club podcast. Thank you so much for your time today. I so appreciate this.
It's my pleasure. It's lovely to speak to you. You're so far away, but
I
the
know.
wonderful thing about technology is I feel connected to people, even though we're very isolated at this moment in time.
Yeah, how have you been coping? How is your family? You guys all okay?
We're all healthy, which is the main thing. But it's challenging. It really is. We have an interesting family dynamic. I have two stepchildren and we have them half of the week. So we just have this like kind of crazy routine going on. And sometimes we have a lot of fun and sometimes we just want to kill each other. So it's been a little bit up and down.
Oh, hey, I know that you've been working on new music. After the reunion, you were in the studio recording. I love who I am. Tell us about all your new music.
Well, I knew I wanted to make a new record. And when I was talking to the girls before we decided to get on the road, I knew once that started, I wouldn't have time to do anything. So I did a few sessions before the Spice Girl shows. And then when I was with them on tour, I just felt really reflective because I think after it being such a long time since I'd been on stage as Sporty Spice, I was a little bit nervous to whether I could become her again. And quite quickly, I realized I don't become her. I am her.
Mm.
It's a huge part of who I am and it's inside of me and it's never gone away. So it just made me start thinking about all of the different moments in my life, whether it be through my childhood, through my career, the different, styles of music I've done, or the different ways I've looked in my life. And I just thought, you know what we never do? We never celebrate the difficult times because we celebrate our successes always. But we've got through the hard times and we really should acknowledge and celebrate that too. And
Mm.
it just got my mind thinking about how we all could do with just accepting every aspect of ourselves. And that's really the inspiration behind this whole album. And Who I Am was the great introduction to that.
Yeah. Oh, it's so cool you're making new music because you have done this is your eighth album, right? Solo album. Oh my
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. I can't believe it. It's like you just blink and it's 10 years later, It's crazy. This time's gone quickly, but I've fit so much into it. So I feel very lucky.
Yeah. Can't wait to hear more of it. When can we expect more of it coming out?
Really
Is
soon,
it a
really soon.
secret? Yeah, cool.
Well, luckily, when I shot the video for Who I Am, I also shot the video for my next single. So we have been preparing to get that out there. So that's going to be coming really soon. We're just putting the final touches to it and also to the album. I had my first studio session today, socially distanced, as the lockdowns relaxed a little bit here in the UK. So it was really nice to be back in the studio environment. I was locked away in the vocal booth and my engineer was in the control room, but it was just nice to be
Yeah.
somewhere different.
Yeah, that's so good. We'll talk more about all of that soon, but take us back. Growing up, did you know what you wanted to be and what you wanted to do?
I think I did from a really young age. My memories growing up, I think I was probably about 8 years old when I started to go to dance class and I did lots of different styles of dancing and singing and acting. And it was the only thing I ever wanted. It was kind of my passion from that moment. And I always knew it was really difficult to get into any kind of industry like that, any kind of showbiz, whether it be theatre or music. But I just loved it and I pursued it. And I went to performing arts college when I was 16. And I was training to work in theatre because I thought, I'd love to do music, but it's so, so difficult to get into. My mum had been in a band, she'd been signed in the 70s, but things hadn't quite worked out for her. So I kind of knew, from her story that things were tough. Yeah, little did I know I was going to be part of one of the biggest girl bands of all time.
Yeah, and how did that all begin? Because I understand that you auditioned for this group they were putting together. Is that right?
Yeah, so one sec, I'm just going to go into there being
No,
really
you're
noisy and
fine.
they're driving me nuts.
Take your time. It's no stress at all. Thank you, Melanie.
Get those bloody kids back to school.
By the
So,
way, your hair looks amazing. Like, what do you do to your hair? It's so beautiful and straight. Do you
oh my
style
gosh,
it or what do
I've
you
got
do?
I've got so much spray in it to cover the greys.
No.
I've just put the straightness to it a bit.
Oh my
I'm not very
goodness.
good at hair,
Yours,
so I
it
just go,
looks so good. Looks so
oh,
good.
thank
Anyway, I
you.
got distracted by that. Hey, so we were talking about how did the Spice Girls all begin? You auditioned, is that correct, for a group they were putting together?
That's right. So I had been to Performing Arts College for 3 years rather, and I was auditioning for West End shows. And I was, really struggling. I was getting a few recalls, but I just didn't get a job. And I was sitting in a dance studio in central London, and I was with one of my best girlfriends. We still, have a lot of time together now. And someone handed us a flyer, and it said, "Are you between 18 and 24? Are you outgoing? Do you like to sing, dance, blah, blah, blah? There's an audition for a girl band." So I looked at this piece of paper and I said to her, "That's it. That's what I'm going to do." And I went along to the audition and I was recalled. And when I was recalled, I had tonsillitis. I was sick. I couldn't even get out of bed. So I had my mum call them. I couldn't speak. My mum called them, begged them to give me a week to recover, to come back and sing again for them. And they said, "No, sorry, we've chosen the girls. It's too late." So I thought, oh, well, never mind. It wasn't meant to be. I think when you grow up and doing lots of auditions and things, you're quite used to things not going the way you want them to. And a couple of weeks later, I got another phone call to say, "Oh, something hasn't worked out with one of the girls. Will you come down and sing for us?" So I was like, oh my God, this is my chance. So I went down and I met Jerry, Victoria, Melanie, and a girl called Michelle. And from that day, I became part of this band. And then we were held up together for a few weeks. And one of the girls, didn't really work out. She didn't know whether she wanted to continue her studies or be part of the band. But the other four of us were like so single-minded. We were like, no, that's not good enough. You have to be dedicated. And she decided to move on. And that's when Emma came along. And the minute she came along, everything changed. There was this like weird energy between us, this incredible dynamic. And then we became the Spice Girls. And from then on, it all happened quite quickly.
Yeah, there is this, I've heard that there's a misconception you've spoken about that it was manufactured, but it really wasn't. And the way you dress and your characters and you being Sporty Spice, that was all a natural thing, wasn't it? It wasn't like you dress like this. You were just being yourselves.
Yeah, it's funny because in the early days, we were, obviously looking to girl bands before us. And traditionally, a lot of girl bands or a lot of pop bands kind of dress the same or they're coordinated. So we were trying to find our way. We did some outfits where we'd all wear little dresses. And then I remember we did the showcase and we all had little Adidas t-shirts on with jeans. And there was always someone that was really uncomfortable. And when we used to rock up to rehearsals, I'd be in like a trackie, and then Emma would often wear a little baby doll dress. Jerry always had some wacky like secondhand store outfit on, and like Mel was always like really cool. And we just looked in the mirror and we were like, why don't we just like wear what we wear? And that was it then. And we never thought about it that much, but it was, I suppose, so different to anyone before us that we were given these names. It was through a magazine, gave us our nicknames, and they stuck. And we almost became caricatures of our names, so it was all really fun.
When did you click that this was actually really huge and you were part of this iconic group, this, the biggest girl band ever? Did you sort of realize that, or were you just sort of living in this moment?
We always had really big ideas. And the first management we worked with that auditioned us used to say, girls, don't get ahead of yourselves, don't get too cocky. But we just knew there was something special going on, we could feel it. And whether part of that was our determination and, the single-minded vision that we all shared, I don't know. But we left our first management and then we started writing and recording and working with writers, producers and meeting new management. And yeah, we were working on the record. We probably had most of the first album demoed, and I was in my tracksuit and Victoria was in her little black dress. And, we were pretty much looking and sounding as we did when we were launched onto the world. So yeah, it was quite organic and bizarre. And even with our management, when we signed with Simon Fuller, who was the manager that took us to Virgin Records and then, made the movie and conquered the world, he still would say to us, girls, don't get ahead of yourselves. And we'd be like, yeah, we're going to be the biggest band in the world. So we were big stars even when no one knew who the hell we were.
But at the same time, you're so down to earth. You didn't seem like you had big egos, if you know what I mean. And I think there's a difference between knowing that you want to do big things and just, believing in yourself, I guess. And that's what you had.
Yeah, we did. We had so much self-belief. And I think it kept like snowballing, because we did this showcase, which was the first time we'd been exposed to any kind of audience. And it was an industry audience. And, we were only kids, so we were so naive. We weren't nervous. We were just excited. And we could feel in the room, we could feel that they were really intrigued and people were excited. So that boosted our confidence again. And then when we started going out to labels and magazines and stuff, was when we started to encounter some sexism. Because at the time, the music industry was predominantly ruled by boys and boy bands in the pop world, especially. So that's when we realized that actually we had a voice and it was important that we had to use it. And that's really when we started talking about girl power.
Yeah, you girls created girl power. Was it through those experiences of, experiencing a bit of sexism? And did you know that that's what you guys wanted to do?
When we first got together, we just wanted to be a band. We wanted to be famous. We wanted to perform. We wanted to go all over the world. We didn't really think about having a message. So that just really did happen naturally and really quite quickly as well, because the music industry, it has improved, but it's still very male dominated, especially behind the scenes. So that was something we realized we had to be a girl band for girls. That's what we wanted. And little did we know that we weren't only appealing to girls, but we have always had a huge fan base in the LGBTQ plus community that has continued to stay with us to this day.
Yeah, it must have been, you were pioneers in that way of, in an industry which is so heavily male dominated and, there's these attitudes towards women. It must have been, was it a bit hard at times?
Do you know what the saving grace for us girls was? That we had each other. And, we were formidable. And I know there were so many situations and so many things we did that I never would have done on my own. It's like when you're with a group of friends and you just get, you have that courage because someone's got your back. And, we were outrageous. We did crazy things. I mean, Mel B would probably do these things on her own, but not all of us would. So it was, I think we were quite intimidating. And to like big players, like men high up in the music industry, when these 5 girls would come in and really not give a fuck, they didn't know what was going on.
It's so good. I love that chemistry you girls just instantly sort of had. I got to ask you, what is it like being a Spice Girl? Because, most of us growing up wanted to be one. I remember walking out of the Spice World movie thinking, I was like, I am a Spice Girl. We all wanted to be one. So what's it like being one?
It's awesome. I love being a Spice Girl. It's funny because, people often ask me, how does it feel to be a Spice Girl? Do you forget you're a Spice Girl? I wake up every day going, I'm a Spice Girl.
That's so good. Yeah. And I also wanted to ask about the tabloid media. That must have been really hard being in that environment where, there was a lot of attention, a lot of pressure. What was that like? Obviously you were living your dream, but that must have also been quite hard as well.
Yeah, it's interesting because the world is so different now. And I think that young people, not just young people in the public eye, just young people in general, they grew up with so much more pressure because of social media. But we didn't have that in the 90s. But what we did have was a very, very cruel tabloid media in the UK, especially. And as a young person, like living your dream, fulfilling this fantasy, you never really think about there being negatives. When you grow up having a dream, you only think of the great stuff, right? But everything has bad sides. So that was hard. I think reading people's opinions of you, constantly being scrutinized, the way that you look or the way that you speak or the things that you say, being compared to each other, being compared to other people. I think as a young person who feels a little bit vulnerable, and also, in my 20s, and I think like lots of people in their 20s, you're kind of trying to figure out who you are anyway, so to have other people's opinions thrust in your face is really confusing.
Yeah, your 20s can be quite an insecure time. And I guess you were on this massive high and you were living in this, you were doing your dream, you were living in this amazing world. But you're right, there must have been some downsides.
Yeah, it's tough. I think dealing with that, the tabloid media aspect was difficult. And I don't think you realize how much fame affects not only you, but everybody around you. It affects your family, it affects your friends. Well, four of us had siblings who were 17 when Wannabe became a hit. And that's a difficult age as well, and they were kind of involved without asking to be. They were our kid brothers and sisters, so they had to deal with people being jealous and people bullying them, and so there's lots of things you don't really think about when you go into it.
What about some of the good things? Like, what's the best things? Obviously,
Best
living your
thing,
dream.
yeah, being on stage. Yeah, I mean, for me, even today, I'm so fortunate. I still make music as a solo artist. I occasionally have the opportunity to hang out with the girls and do things. I DJ, I do some TV, I do some radio, I've done theatre, but being on stage and singing your own songs is the ultimate. And it's always been my absolute first love.
Mm.
And I don't think that'll ever change. And it's kind of, the reason for everything that I do, because it all leads to that point of standing on that stage, connecting with an audience, expressing yourself, getting that energy back. And yeah, that is what it's all about for me.
When you guys were in the peak of the time, what was that like? I mean, you must have been so crazy busy. Your life just must have been nonstop. What was that sort
Yeah.
of high like, I guess?
Yeah, it was insane because, we were on this roller coaster and it was a really fun one. But we were away from home. We were missing our family and our friends. Everything we did was super high profile. When I think about it now, some of the award ceremonies that we did, and some of the TV shows that we did, and the thought of it now, it just makes me feel sick with anxiety. But we just got on with it. We had each other. But I think if you're lucky enough to have that kind of success, and how busy the work schedule is, you're living on adrenaline. It's just go, go, go. And there has to come a time, and I think this happens to all young artists and pop bands, where everybody just has to have a break. It's almost like everybody just kind of spontaneously combusts. It's quite a short-lived thing.
And I know that you've been quite open about your mental health struggles. I know it's very personal, so we don't have to talk about it if you don't want to, but all of that attention, all that pressure, that's normal for that to have an impact on a person.
Yeah, I think with fame, it affects everybody differently. And, definitely the issues that I had, I don't blame anything or anyone, but I just think it's a combination of everything that happened. It's getting your head around it and dealing with the changes in your life. And yeah, it was hard. But, I think mental health is something that I really think the majority of us struggle with at times. I think you're really fortunate if you don't. Everybody has down days. And I think, especially with what's going on in the world right now, it's a time of uncertainty, and a lot of people are very isolated and afraid, for their safety, for the safety of their loved ones. And, something like that, it really can be a catalyst to send your mind racing.
Yeah. And so you got to a point, I think I've heard you speak about, it was sort of at the end of when you were the big time with the Spice Girls, where you did have a bit of a tough time, and you'd also been quite open about your, exercise and your disordered eating as well. Do you think that was all part of that, all that pressure that you were going through as well?
Yeah, 100%. I think, it's complicated. It's really difficult to just pinpoint it to one, two, or three things. But I think, feeling insecure, seeing my image everywhere and it being scrutinized constantly, guilt was part of it too. I grew up in a working class environment. I come from a background where you know, people have always had to struggle to make ends meet. And then here was me living my dream, earning ridiculous amounts of money. And I felt guilty. And then I felt like I had to deserve what had happened to me. And I think I was, you know, punishing myself by trying to make myself perfect to deserve everything that had happened to me. So it's, you know, it's really complex.
Yeah, definitely. And there
Yeah.
is a lot of that. I can relate with that, you know, that perfectionism. It's like you want everything to be perfect, but you're in an environment where you are doing things so well, but you can't control everything.
Yeah, I think that's another part of it too, where so much of your life is out of control or controlled by somebody else. You do start to control the things you have, you know, some control
Mm.
over. Yeah.
Yeah. When did you get to a point where you were sort of like, okay, I want to get better. I want to work on this?
I think I was in denial for a long time. And I also felt like I didn't have a choice. I felt like that was the way I had to be. So I had to just get on with it. And then we toured in 1998, and Melanie and Victoria got pregnant. So we knew there was going to be a natural break. And I was too scared to stop. I think partly because I didn't want to face some of the issues I was dealing with. But I wanted some space. I needed to be on my own. I needed to express myself as an individual. You know, I felt like I had things I wanted to say on my own. So I went off to LA, and I made my first album, Northern Star. And that was the time when I started, you know, my internal dialogue started changing from this is how you have to be, this is how you have to be, there's no choice, this is what you got to do, to okay, we need to address this. This isn't right. You can't carry on like this. That's when I got my first personal trainer, and you know, I got help with my eating, but it was baby steps, and I hadn't fully allowed myself. I mean, I didn't get professional help from, you know, medical help, you know, which I actually needed, and my body took that away from me because I quite quickly felt really down. I was struggling to get out of bed. And I started binge eating, I think probably because my body was so starved of nourishment because I hadn't eaten properly for years,
Mm.
that my body kind of took the decision for me. And that's when I went to my GP, and he diagnosed me with depression. And I was so relieved because I thought, oh my God, it's got a name. You know, it's something that can be treated and I can get help with and get better. So that was like the first step truly on my road to recovery.
Yeah, that's so good. What were some of those darkest moments? Like you talk about, you know, being in bed, not being able to get up. I think a lot of us can relate to that. That's really hard.
Yeah, it's really hard. And a lot of it was happening through the promotion of my first album. And that album was really successful. So I was really busy, and it was hard because, you know, I had this incredible opportunity and I love my work. And you just have like this little joke that I used to have like this on off switch, you know, because sometimes I'd be in a dressing room in floods of tears, and then I'd have to like switch it on for the cameras kind of thing, which I think a lot of performers sadly go through that.
Mm.
We all have bad days, you know? So yeah, that was really, really tough. Yeah, I think the darkest days were, I mean, I don't think I cancelled much work, but there was definitely days when I had a lot of anxiety. I didn't want to leave the house. So that was, yeah, really, really tough.
Yeah. How did you get through that time? I know you had, like you say, you had your doctor and people that were really helpful. You're obviously
Mm.
very strong. How did you get through that time?
There was times when I didn't know whether I'd ever feel better, you know. I I gosh, I mean, this is really, really brutal, but you know, this is real life, right? I never had suicidal thoughts, but I often would go to bed and think, God, it'd be easier if I just didn't wake up, you know? So that was kind of my darkest time. But even in those darkest moments, I always had this flicker of hope. And I think I'm such a determined person. I was like, this is not going to beat me, you know? Although at times I thought it might, there was always just a glimmer, just that glimmer, and I just held on to that. And when I started to, you know, feel like I was having good days, or the good days were closer together, sometimes it felt like one step forward and two steps back. But yeah, it was just a really long process. And I tried lots of different therapies, and something I still have today, and I love it, is 5-element acupuncture. That's always been really helpful to me. I did take antidepressants for, I think it was about 18 months. And I've always had talking therapies, which I think are very helpful when you find the right person for you. So yeah, there was lots, I can't say exactly what it was, a combination of all these things that helped to get me better. My acupuncturist said to me once, he said, it took you a long time to get yourself in this state. So it's going to take you some time to get better, and that made me feel better, because I just thought, that's fair enough. There's no magic wand. I'm not going to heal overnight. So it was a long and sometimes frustrating process.
Yeah. How are you feeling these days? I know that was a while ago, but you've
Yeah.
obviously got a lot of skills there. How, like, I mean, we all go through these times, and you went through an incredible time that none of us can really relate to. How do you keep yourself well these days? So just doing all those things all the time, your self care.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. I mean, I learned my toolkit, which was eating well, drinking plenty of water, not drinking too much alcohol, trying to get enough sleep, exercising, but not too much. It's all, we know what's
Yeah.
good for us, but it's boring. But I think if you just kind of have like a reasonable balance of all of those things, and then sometimes if I start to feel like a bit down or a bit anxious, then I will just not drink alcohol. I'll just have a few weeks, because I don't drink much alcohol anyway. But, for me, that's kind of something that can just send me, on a bit of a downward spiral, feeling negative and feeling anxious. So that will be cut out. And it's interesting. You can always kind of go, yeah, I haven't been sleeping great. So just trying, yeah, sometimes it's hard, people suffer with insomnia, but just, yeah, really trying to be kind to yourself. And as I've got older, the new thing I've added to my toolkit is like literally that inner dialogue of being kind, because I've said this in quite a few interviews. It's incredible the way we speak to ourselves inside our heads. We would never speak to anybody else like that. We are so cruel. I think especially women, we can be so cruel and disgusting to ourselves, the language we use in our heads to ourselves. And so I make a real conscious effort to not allow myself to do that. I'd never call myself stupid or lazy or fat or, all of those things, which as women, I think most of us do from time to time. It's not allowed. We're not having it. We can acknowledge and say, okay, I understand you feel like that, but that's bollocks because, because we're amazing. And I think in my darkest times, I thought about my friends. And I have the most wonderful friends. And I would sometimes think, well, I can't be that bad if they're my friends, because they're bloody great.
That's so true. And what was it like also, what was it like when you were sort of doing your own thing, which I know you loved doing, but after that real peak of fame with the Spice Girls, then sort of integrating back into, I guess, normal life? I've heard you speak about this a bit. Was that kind of hard?
It was so weird. It was so weird. I mean, you have to adjust to being, in the public eye and, being at one point one of the most famous people in the world, so recognizable because we were on crisp packets and chocolate bars and we were everywhere. So you have to adjust to that. And then you're right, when it slows down and the pace is different, you have to kind of, integrate back into society. That was weird. And I still, even now, I'm kind of proud of myself when I'm on public transport, because I couldn't take public transport for a long time. And now I'm like, yeah, look at me, I'm on the bus. I'm like, woo!
Oh my God.
So it's really weird. Yeah, you kind of crave normality, all the things that, usually could be a little bit tedious. Like when you don't have the chance to do that, it's kind of a novelty again.
Obviously, you were really busy on your own, but when you weren't touring with the girls, it must have been quite strange when all of a sudden you weren't so much, they were having kids, you guys went on a bit of a break and you were doing your own thing. That must have been just a change in your normal, I guess.
It was good because it was a bit of a relief, because I love the girls. And of course, what we did was incredible, but it's intense. It was, super intense being together all the time. We were always under a lot of pressure. And I think the thing is, with the band, we had a lot of responsibility. We had really young fans and we had the responsibility to each other. So when I went off and did things alone, and I could kind of be the master of my own destiny, I didn't have to collaborate in any way. I could just do it, my way. So it was quite liberating to be alone.
Yeah.
after those years with the girls.
Yeah. And you've done so well. So well done on all of that. It's so cool that you've
Thank
done
you.
so many albums and you've done incredibly well. What was it like? What do you think everyone connected with you girls so much? What do you think, like, what was that?
I think a lot of it was because we are quite normal, even though there's some crazy cats in that band. We are pretty normal girls at heart. And the individuality, I think, was really important as well. One of the great things about the Spice Girls is we always go wrong. We're not perfect in any way, and we've never claimed to be. We're not the greatest singers in the world. We're not the greatest dancers in the world. We always look a little bit ramshackle, and Jerry's always going wrong. And I think that because we weren't up on a pedestal, I think people could really relate to us, and I think that was definitely part of the appeal.
Yeah. And I mean, girls created girl power. What does girl power and female empowerment mean to you? And what did it mean to the Spice Girls?
It was our mission. We wanted equality. We shouted about girl power, but that quite quickly changed, became people power, and really was about letting everybody feel important, and everybody counted and everybody was welcome. It was so inclusive. That's what we've always wanted Spice Girls to be. So when you say, when you're a kid and you go to the movie and you think, I am a Spice Girl, we wanted everyone to be, the fans were Spice Girls, even if they were boys, they were Spice Girls. That's what we wanted to achieve with girl power in the 90s. And then what's been incredible is we've watched how that legacy has unfolded. And there is a generation, and obviously the closest to me is the generation within the music industry. So I hear so many young artists, whether it's Adele, Jessie J, Jess Glynn, I mean, even Beyonce's talked about being a fan of the Spice Girls. It's really incredible to hear. And I think so many young women, I often go to schools and I'll do, little events in schools or talk to young girls. And young girls now, they seem to be, and I know it's not everybody, and there are different issues that they're dealing with, but they seem quite savvy, and I kind of feel like girl power has really affected people. It has. The generation that were our fans have brought up these young girls who have got girl power, and it's just this self-perpetuating amazing phenomena that is women being strong. It's incredible.
No, you're so right. I think a lot of I can relate to that. You girls did make us feel strong. You inspired us. You made us feel like I always thought growing up I can do anything. And I think a lot of that comes down to what you girls did. And we grew up in peak Spice Girl time, so that was huge for us. What have been some of the biggest lessons and challenges along the way?
I think it's really, really important to trust your instincts. And I have the kind of personality where I often think people know better than me. I think, oh, they know best, or they must know better than me. Oh, I don't know what I'm talking about. And when I've allowed myself to believe that, things have happened that have annoyed me, because I just think, why didn't I stick with my gut instinct? The thing I felt, maybe a little bit in parts of my solo career, when I've trusted a record label to make decisions and not gone with what I wanted truly and honestly, and it's not gone the way that we've wanted it to go, I feel really frustrated. I just think you have to make your own mistakes. If you're going to make a mistake, make your own, not somebody else's. That's really annoying.
Yeah.
And I think that is another issue, especially for like young women. I think we cannot trust our instincts, and you should, and you must, because it's powerful.
And I wanted to touch on the fact as well that did you start your own record label?
Yeah.
You're an entrepreneur, aren't you? You're an entrepreneur.
Well, the funny thing is, right, I saw on Wikipedia that I'm an entrepreneur, and I was like, entrepreneur, that's such rubbish. And then, my boyfriend said to me, well, you've got a record label. I was like, yeah, but it's not that I had this like big idea I was going to like become this big like record industry mogul. Yeah. It was just that I had my relationship with Virgin Records broke down after my second album. And I just had options. And my manager at the time was like, look, we can try and sign with another major. We can maybe sign with an independent, or we can self-finance. We can start our own label and just not have to answer to anybody, just do it our own way. And I just thought that's so exciting, because it's a complete opposite of everything I've known. in music. So we decided to take that route, and I have been self-financing and releasing independently since my third album in 2005.
Wow.
So that's been interesting. That's been challenging, especially because the industry has changed so much. But it's really exciting because nothing stays the same, and it's nice to kind of figure out where it's going to go.
Yeah, new challenges with streaming and how everything works these days, but
Yeah.
so good. And you also, did you name it after your, because you're into your, I mean, everyone in the UK is into their football. You named it, is it true is it true that you named it after your Liverpool team?
Yeah, I am a big Liverpool supporter, and because my family from Liverpool, I grew up just outside the city. So, yeah, you're either red or blue. You're born into it. So yeah, always been a red girl. So that's the name of my.
So good. And the times that you have gotten back with the Spice Girls, whether it's tours back in the day, the Olympics, and then most recently your tour last year. What's that like, getting back with the girls? And were you a little bit, is there a part of you that's ever apprehensive about doing it? Because it was not because of the girls, but it was a hard time at times for you.
Yeah, totally. And because of the girls sometimes as well. Totally. So I'd say the most nervous I was at working with the girls again was when we toured in 2007, because that was kind of the first time we had come back together. We'd had quite a break from each other because I think we needed it. We all had to go off and find our way as individuals in our personal lives as well as in our careers. And when we got back in 2007, I was so anxious. But it's just that thing, we've been through so much together. And it's really unique what we've experienced. And we were so young, we've grown up together. We know each other's families, each other's siblings, each other's kids. We were there for the birth of some of each other's children,
Wow.
So even if we spend time apart, even if we do have times when we're disagreeing about certain things, as soon as we get together in the room, it's just like yesterday, and it's fine and it's fun. And that energy is never gone. Yeah. So we're just so full of mischief. And again, we just behave really badly.
But is there one that you really get on with the best?
Do you know what? I have really different relationships with each of them, and we all have very different relationships with each other. I just have these phases. Like Jerry lives so close by to me. So, often sometimes I'll be up there and my daughter and her daughter are good buddies. And then, Emma and I have always been really close. And then Melanie and I really relate because we come from very similar backgrounds. And it just like moves all the time.
Yeah, you like family, really. Yeah. It's a family vibe, isn't it? What was it like doing I actually came to one of your gigs at Wembley last year. Oh, your tour last year was incredible. What was that like, doing that tour again? And please do more if you can.
I know. I really, really want to do more. It was incredible. It was so much more than we ever imagined. We knew it would be great. We knew it would be really fun. And we were so determined to get the best creative and the best production, and we just wanted it to be so nostalgic but modern, and we wanted to really celebrate the 90s, and it was perfect. I don't think it could have gone any better. It was above and beyond our wildest dreams, and the fans made that. We never knew how much love was still out there for us, and we were just blown away night after night. It was amazing.
Yeah, was it fun stepping back in? I mean, you never left Sporty Spice, but stepping back into Sporty Spice on stage, and this time Sporty Spice has gotten fancy. You had like sparkles, and wasn't just trackies anymore.
No, I know. I had really expensive trainers on. I had like Louis Vuitton trainers, and the girls were like really jealous of my shoes. For the first time, all the budget went on my shoes, and I was like, yeah, about bloody time.
Yeah, you always leave me in trackies, and they're the cheaper ones in your outfits.
Yeah, exactly. I used to get all the free stuff back in the day.
That's so good. No, thank you so much for doing that tour. It was honestly it was the best night of my life going to see you at Wembley, honestly. I was on an absolute, didn't want it to end, it was just absolute high.
I know.
Yeah.
But, it's so interesting because, I've spoken to so many fans or, people that I've been interviewed by, or people who came over from all over the world to come and see us. So many people say it was the best night of my life, even better than my wedding.
You're like, thank you, that's good. No, honestly, it was magical. It was absolutely magical. I just didn't, and it just went so fast. I was like, oh no. And honestly, you guys banter on stage and everything. I just really hope that I know it's a big thing to do, but it'd be really cool if, and I know Mel B said that you girls were going to be coming to Australia and everything, like before it was even like, she's so funny how she does that.
She's so naughty. Well, she does it because she believes if she says it enough, it's going to happen. So she kept like for years, we weren't even talking about doing shows. And she was going, yeah, we're going on tour. We were like, Mel, shut up. And then when it happened, she went, told you so.
Well, everyone down here has been so excited. And they were like, do you think they'll come down? I was like, I hope so. But like, yeah, she got everyone really excited because she was like saying it was happening, you know?
Do you know what? We really wanted to. And yeah, it's just hard
it's
because everyone's got to be comfortable with the timings and how long you're away and kids and blah, blah, blah. But please, you know, I keep everything crossed that at some point we will be back out there playing the territories we never got to. That's my number one wish.
Yeah. What is some advice, knowing everything you know now and everything you've gone through, what's some advice you would give to your younger self?
I would say to my younger self to just chill a bit, you know, enjoy everything. I think, you know, and this is, you know, the wisdom of age, isn't it? Just worrying about all those things that don't really need to be worried about. I feel like I wasted such precious times because I was so caught up in my own stuff, which didn't serve me, you know? So yeah, when people often ask me what I'd say to my younger self, and you know what I truly would say to her is, there's a better life for you, so go and start living it.
Yeah, you're so right. It's so hard sometimes, especially when you're very critical or you're wanting to do really well. It is hard to not think, is this the best thing? I could be doing better. And you do really get stuck in your head a bit.
Yeah, I think, you know, there are so many people, I think so many performers are perfectionists. And it's such a waste of energy because there's no such thing as perfect. You know, we all want to do our best. And, you know, what I've learned as I've got older is sometimes when you let go, you're better. You know, you just have to, I think faith is a really important thing. We need to have faith in ourselves. I think we are capable of so much more than we give ourselves credit. And we should just like really, you know, really honor that.
Yeah. Becoming a mum was at a time when you realized how incredible you are.
Yes. Becoming a mum, it changed me in so many ways I didn't expect. Of course, life changes and is never the same again, not wanting to quote a lyric, but
what a song though. What a song, Melanie.
Yeah, top tune. But yeah, it was that thing. Like, I think I'd spent so many years being so critical of my body, and then this perfect human being was made inside my body, you know. And she is the absolute light of my life. She gives me hell most of the time, but I cannot imagine life without her. I can't even remember what it was like before she was here. And I just feel so grateful to her. She's made me feel so much, you know, proud of myself. I treat myself with more respect. I make sure I'm treated by other people with more respect because I'm her teacher, and I will not have her see that I will be treated badly by anybody because I don't want her to allow that to happen to herself, you know?
Yeah, and that's like another thing is like self-worth, and it's so important to know your own worth. And I'm so pleased that you realize that, you know, because you are so incredible. You're so amazing.
Oh, well, thank you. And you know what? Of course, you know, there's loads of things I don't like about myself. I'd love to be, you know, better at, I don't know, I learn more things, learn a language, learn an instrument, you know, do all these things. I wish I was less annoyed about the mess that I'm looking at right now in my living room and how the kids drive me crazy leaving towels on the floor, you know, but there's lots of things I'd like to change. But I am amazing. We are all amazing. You know what I mean? We just literally do not give ourselves credit.
Yeah. You've given us so much advice throughout this, and just even in the advice you've given to yourself. But what is some advice you would like to share with those listening? Because I'm sure that everyone would love a pep talk from a Spice Girl, from Sporty Spice.
Yeah, you know, I think it is. It's just those things. It's like we spend so much time focusing on the negative things we feel about ourselves. And why don't you just like flip it? Why don't you start thinking about the really great things about yourself? You know, commend yourself. I mean, you know what? When I was depressed, getting out of bed was an achievement, you know? So right now being in lockdown, you know, everybody's working from home. getting dressed is an achievement, you know, putting on some makeup. So I just think, yeah, really give yourself credit for those things that you never do. Just flip it. Be kind to yourself. Just do it as an exercise and see if it makes any difference. I bet it will.
Yeah, and what about advice for people who want to do really amazing things and live their dream like you have?
Just go for it. I mean, do not take no for an answer. Don't allow anybody to dampen your flame. Just do it. You know, I think that's what we proved as the Spice Girls. We went out there, we were like, you know what, we're going to be the biggest band in the world. We are literally going to be an international band. You know, we're going to be more successful than all the boy bands. And we did it, you know, and just because we said we were going to, and we all stuck to that.
It's so cool. Thank you so much for your time, Melanie. Thank you for everything you've
My
done. You're
pleasure. Oh, my
incredible.
pleasure. Well,
Oh,
thank you to everyone because, you know, without our wonderful fans out there, it would not have happened. So, you know, we both we're in it together. It's teamwork.
yeah. No, we really appreciate it all.